It's a good idea to have the septic tank pumped and maintained every 2 to 4 years, depending on the size of the tank and the number of people. But if they're paying to have it pumped directly before we come out there, it doesn't give us a good indication of how the system's working with regular use. And I would tend to question the motives of the seller for having the tank serviced if the buyer is going to pay for the pump and inspection. A good septic inspection should consist of identifying the piping in the basement, the wastewater piping in the basement, what's connected to it, if it's properly vented, if there's a water softener connected to it, and also identify the age of the system, if it's PVC or cast iron. After we've done this, we'd go outside and look at the septic tank. We'd excavate it, pump down the waste, and look at the integrity of the tank, if there's any cracks or any components like missing, like the baffles. Then we'd perform a water capacity test of the leach field and a dye test. And then also you'd want to probably have the well water tested for fecal and coliform. Also, some other additional services that we do is we video pipe inspect the lines to make sure that there's no clogs or bellies. And after all this information is collected, we'll go back, write up a report, and provide a drawing to the seller identifying where the system components are and how the layout and the system works. A seller can prepare for a septic inspection by providing receipts of prior service history. And they can also provide the blueprints if they have them available, and also identify to their realtor where the system components are. That way we have an idea coming into a septic inspection of where the components are and where we can dig and find those components. This depends on two factors: the size of the septic tank and the number of people in the household. For a typical average American family of 2 to 4 people with a 1,000-gallon tank, I would recommend pumping that septic tank every 2 to 3 years. I typically flush an average half-day's water demand, and this is determined by the number of bedrooms. So for a 2-bedroom house, it's typically 220 gallons per day. So I would take half of that and flush 110 gallons into the system. And since this is done over a period of 30 to 60 minutes, it should give an indication that the septic system can handle the total daily flow. There are several different types of septic systems out there. You may have a conventional gravity septic system, you may have a seepage system with dry well, or you may have an alternative septic system. But one component that never changes is having a septic tank to remove the solids from the waste stream. What's beyond the septic tank may change depending on the groundwater conditions and the soil percolation rate, but having a septic tank is always common to most systems. It's important to have a septic inspection because it ensures to the buyer that they're not going to have any unforeseen cost after the closing occurs. And it also allows them to pump the septic tank and know what shape their system is in. Dye tests are a good idea. However, sometimes too much emphasis is placed on just performing a dye test to assess if a septic system is working properly. It should also be followed by identification of the system components, a pumping of the septic tank, and a capacity test of the leach field. The buyer should at least go away from a septic inspection with the following information: where the septic tank is located on the property, when they should pump the septic tank next, and if any repairs or replacements are necessary and what the cost associated with performing the work is. The short answer is yes. The more bedrooms means the greater the wastewater flow. So by going from a 2-bedroom to a 4-bedroom, you're increasing the wastewater demand by 250 gallons. Therefore, you would need double the size system. Flushable wipes are not recommended. Contradictory to what it says on the packaging, they tend to float in the septic tank and enter the leach field. And other components that you do not want to flush are excessive grease, dental floss, feminine hygiene products, chemicals and paint cleaners, excessive bleach, and cigarette filters.